So yeah, as of pretty much right now, if you check out on WoolieVersus, the first episode of FF9 just dropped. So, WoolieVersus Final Fantasy 9, we're doing it. And it is the Moguri mod. So, that is the PC version that's had lots of improvements done where they had, like, for example, full widescreen backgrounds, high res, uh, just visual improvements top to bottom, and I'm blown away by how gorgeous it looks. It's so pretty. I just every time they enter an environment where like it used to be like a really cluttered city or just like an interior of like where like like some of the buildings and such, like you can just see how I saw there's like one model in the beginning of like a town, and you can just feel how blurry it used to be. It used to, I can just feel in my soul, this used to be a blob JPEG, and like it's now this crisp image that's really detailed. And like, yeah, overall, just amazing kudos to the Moguri mod, like, for making that game look beautiful. And it also has an orchestrated soundtrack, which is not the original. So some people made it very clear that the original is the preferred way to go.
You mean the people that are saying that in the chat right now?
I didn't notice it when I started because I was playing the game, but apparently for the first hour or two, people were being violently aggressive about the music, which we switched over, and it was like, yeah, no, I can hear that this sounds pretty cool. Like, it does sound good. The whole thing though as well is kind of like, last time I uploaded FF6 parts to YouTube, the music got us in trouble. So yeah. I don't want to enter into that with this Let's Play as well if I can avoid it. So like we're testing it, and right now it seems like they're being just as aggressive about it too. So like,
wait, the music is getting
getting claimed. Yeah.
Content ID, man. It's a PlayStation game from like 2000 or whatever. Like,
videos get demonetized, all that stuff gets flagged,
Wow, I didn't know that.
So
that's really good to know, though.
I mean, it helps that like the way I record, like I have the stream, and then I have the game feed, and then my audio all separate from each other, so that in those moments we can replace the game feed with something else, but
yeah, for sure.
But it made it really rough for FF6, and so quick test upload, took a look, and like, yeah, we're getting the same kinds of stuff with this for 9 as well. And even some of the orchestral music, even, which is odd, because it's like, I think it's not just Square content IDing, it's like anyone who wants to click the button to pretend it's theirs or whatever, right? So so anyways, all this to say, we're going to try to play with original music as much as we can, but for the stuff that's really, really aggressive, like, we're not going to be able to keep it on. And I kind of knew this going in, to be honest. It's a Final Fantasy game. It's to be expected to some degree. But yeah, just so you know, there's no streamer mode for FF9. We're not going to click a hi-fi rush button, unfortunately. But yeah.
I'd love to make videos on those games at some point on my channel, so I didn't actually know that was like a thing that can happen.
It would be nice if it wasn't. Yeah. And again, it's not even the ones where it's official. It's like there's a bunch of unofficial ones that get claimed as well,
Yeah. That's so lame.
Whoever uploads it first can just pretend it's theirs.
It's mine.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And it's up to them to decide whether or not your counterclaim is viable.
Exactly. So when we played Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, the intro to Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, the music from that intro, apparently owned by some 90s era punk band or whatever, whatever garbage it was, and like they claim everybody who uploads anything from Thousand Year Door that plays that intro, then because they took the opening notes of it and put it in their music, and now they own it, right? So anyways, you made this, I made this. Yeah, exactly. So but all this aside, FF9, yeah, it's really it's not surprising that it starts in a very traditional way, and it feels like I was calling it like the final gooch because it's like this is the the era of it's the final
Jesus
gooch.
Christ.
Right, because it's not actually, but it's like the era of the hot boys has come, right? And Cloud and Squall have hit, and everybody gave them rave reviews, and now you're gonna come back and follow that up with an aggressive return to form.
Yes.
You're making a statement. You know what I mean? You are trying to say something. You're like, no. We want to do this the old school way. And then after this, it's going to be Hot Boys forever. Hot Boys and Summons till the cows come home, you know? And I feel
and
like
ridiculous swords too.
Yeah.
Just the most ridiculous looking swords.
yeah, gun swords and giant buster swords and
Water sword.
Yeah,
Like,
and again, once you open the fucking the box on that, you can't put it back in. Like there is a look to what Final Fantasy is these days, but FF9 aggressively being like, no, look at these little goofy goobers here with the art style and everything. It's really charming, and it's not just the art style, but it's also like the fact that they have the game starts with the airship pulling up to a castle, where you're like, right, like 7 and 8 definitely were like, we're moving towards that more modern sci-fi element, tech and such. And in this case, you're just like, no, here's like an old ass fucking airship and an old ass castle, and there's a princess, and it's Garnet of Tifa Renoa. Take 3,
Yes.
whatever the case.
Yeah, the whole thing feels like, hey, what if we made FF4 again, kinda, but newer?
yeah. It's got a lot. 9 has a lot of those like little hallmarks from 1 through 6, and it just like it all like feels good.
Yeah, and like a lot
this
of
feels right.
It's so what's interesting too is like you're meeting the races and such, and it feels as well. It's like, oh, this is the world that Moogles come from, where there's a little hippo person standing right there, and like I've got a tail, and there's just all kinds of creatures just hanging out, and it's also the world that like, well, I mean, because FF14 obviously has a bunch of different races, but like you've got the large humanoid races, and then you've got the potatoes, right? So it feels like the world the potatoes come from, whereas the rest are doing their more modern
for sure.
FF
Like
thing.
when you see Vivi the first time, and you're like, black mage. That is a literal black mage.
Wearing the colors,
sprites given 3D form.
Yeah,
absolutely,
it's beautiful.
Walking around, blue robe, got the hat, everything's and yeah, I was always like, Vivi always looked cool. Reminded me a lot of Orkro from He-Man, right? And the FF1, of course, Black Mage. But I was like, what's his vibe? What's the deal? And it's like, oh, this is a 9-year-old kid that's just like, I'm sorry, it's okay. And then, like, please don't worry about me. And then he's going to cast the strongest fucking spell and waste whatever's coming at you. And I'm like, this kid's the best immediately.
Yeah.
What if this precocious 9-year-old child had a gun?
Right? And was really conscientious, And then here comes the big knight, Steiner, princess, right?
Yeah,
he's
super classic.
Walking off of the storybook page into the game. And you're like, oh, okay, he's probably going to be like, oh, fucking magic, I hate it. And he's actually like, oh, Vivi, hey, Master Vivi, you're the best. You're awesome. I hope you're okay. Fuck this stupid, weird, tailed creature, but you're cool, And they're like, oh, the knight wants to protect the mage. That's awesome, So
yeah.
they have a little fun thing.
This is your first playthrough?
First time, yeah.
Oh my god, I almost said some things.
Yeah, I
while
know,
we were
right?
talking. I was just like,
okay.
holy shit. Oh my god, I forgot.
Well, nice catch. Thank you.
And then there's the other party members.
Well, I was going to say, can we put fucking emote mode on you?
No.
Yeah.
No, but yeah. So and then you have the other party members. You've got so it wasn't said in episode, but I do believe an upcoming title for maybe part 3 or 4 is Rufy Goku is here to protect girls.
Yeah.
Because here comes Rufy Goku. Hey, I know. It's fine. It's a joke. Relax, everybody. No, but it is kind of funny because they're like, we're going to go kidnap the princess. That's what we're doing. And it's like, all right, how do we do it? And it's like, all right, Zidane, slip this in her drink.
God.
And I'm like, say what now? And she's like, no, it's okay. I want it to be kidnapped. Don't worry about it. And you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess if you're down, And
You throw the whole glass with the roofie in it. You just fucking, okay, yeah.
Hey, come on board. Right along, right this way.
Right off the balcony.
Right, and she's wearing the white mage hood, of course,
Yeah.
But Steiner, rightfully concerned, and about this fucking child who was about to like roofie the princess, and then interestingly too, like again, you want to establish the classic vibes, old school town, old school princess, old school everything set up with the flying ship, and then you go right into like what would be like the opera section of FF6, like you go right into like, oh, we're on stage and we have to like play while like doing our heist and stuff. So, little classic fantasy hijinks as well. And then you take a detour to Evil Forest. And it's like I can practically see like the loading screens being replaced with pages turning, but definitely I'm liking what they're doing so far. And yeah, it does feel like, knowing where everything FF related goes from here on out, it does feel like an aggressive return to form, for one last dance in this kind of style.
One last gooch.
Mm-hmm. One last gooch.
So I don't remember 100%, but like the reality of how you're describing this is so strange, because you're in 2023 playing a game that in the year 2000 was, let's make a game from yesteryear, referring to games from the early 90s.
Yeah.
And like, you're so far out of the context of that time. But I do remember them showing off 9, 10, and 11 all in a row, and be like, to soften how weird and futury 10 looked and how online 11 looked. They're like, but guys, don't worry, we're gonna give you an old-fashioned one now, and then you'll get that new weird stuff later.
But I remember that, at least with my friends at the time, that 10 was seen as like the real sequel to 7 and 8, because it was leaning more towards the realism and
voice acting.
And voice acting. That, of course, but like it was going towards that style, which for what especially like some of my friends at the time were like, what is the most realistic looking game? That's the one I want to play. That's what matters. Look how serious this game is, And the opening to 10 was one of those cutscenes where they're like, holy shit, Square on the level of like Blizzard with their 3D FMVs, so 9 being like such a weird little thing was akin to Wind Waker, right?
Yeah.
It was one of those like it was, and
I was gonna bring that up. Yeah.
And you remember how Wind Waker went down when that got announced?
Yeah. Not good.
People fucking hated it.
Yeah.
Especially because the Space World demo set expectations up for something like, an even more serious, realistic Ocarina.
That was such a mistake, retroactively.
I mean,
Totally.
I don't think the reception would have been like that much better, but the expectations set up a fall, because people really thought they were going to get that Link walking down to the basement fighting Ganondorf in Space World. demo look. And retroactively now we're like, oh yeah, Wind Waker's awesome. That was a great creative decision at the time. What a charming game. Everything's cool. But it was an era where you just couldn't be serious enough, top 10 most serious games. So so it's fun to be going through this and kind of feel that vibe, knowing what's before and what's after it. And
how weird is it? I wanted to ask you, how weird is it that since then we haven't really had that? Maybe you could say 14 a little bit.
14
has a bit
is,
of that,
is
that
highly
vibe for
explicitly
sure.
like that.
Yeah.
So 14, my impression of 14 is that it's because there's so much customization, it's that plus the other stuff that FF is more known for, right?
Well, the way that they tend to break it down in 14 is that art style and reality are going to depend on expansion, but more region.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're playing Heavensward, tons of dragoons, tons of dragons.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of there's a lot of influence from there. Then you have raids that are just straight up Final Fantasy Tactics locations. It's a lot of greatest hits.
You go to Ivalice,
but it's definitely going for 4, 5, 9 in generality. And then this place will be all futury, like the futury parts of Final Fantasy 8 or so on and so forth.
I mean, I feel like at least by the point we're at now with A Realm Reborn and all these expansions, that it's really just FF Omni. All parts have been represented, all styles, all things. It's such a massive thing that it's kind of just like Final Fantasy history celebration. So whatever you recognize is going to be represented in this way,
One of the weirdest things that happened with 9, because you were describing the seriousness. So you had FF7, which was still Popeyes, but hey, human people in cutscenes and in battle, right?
Yep.
And then you had Final Fantasy 8, and they were like, fucking humans. We're doing humans now.
Yes.
We drive cars.
6 feet tall. They have legs and shit. This is what we're doing from now on. And then FF9 comes out, and you're like, never mind.
So
back to freaks.
So this is what I kind of feel like happened, and this is out of my ass, but I feel like Final Fantasy 1 through 6 exist where you've got these cute little chibi sprites walking around the world, and then you get into fight with artwork.
Yeah.
Concept art pops off the page and starts throwing shit at you. And I feel like those two worlds, this row of chibis and this beautiful boss, have split. And the row of chibis came back for 9, but this beautiful realistic art went on to be the rest of Final Fantasy.
Yeah, because it's this thing of if they're making it in 86 to 1990, did they really want to have tiny little adorable people, or is that what the best they could get away with on the Nintendo?
Right. But look at this amazing monster, right? When you're fighting, you're going through Sabin's backstory, and then you go to the mountain and you fight his master. And then his master just turns into a fully detailed kung fu man, and you're like, oh, this is what little Sabin's supposed to be, inside my head. But instead, it's this little fucking dude with the ponytail going.
Yeah, if they could get away with it, every single character would be a fully animated version of the Amano art.
Right.
But they can't. Yeah. There's no way to do that. The Super Nintendo would fucking explode.
So this is what it is, right? You just.
Can I just say I always used to love that as a kid, because I played back on PS1 Final Fantasy anthologies, which was 1 and 2, but kind of prettied up. The gameplay balance in those was pretty fucked, according to super fans online that know all the minutia. But I always loved that, where it was because as a child essentially at the time, I identified with those tiny little baby sprites, going up against a nightmare concept art, because it was holy shit, you're growing up and you're going out into the real world, and the real world is scary, so
okay,
I always fucking loved that dynamic of the two worlds of art.
Cool.
Going against each other.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring that up. Completely off topic, but
no, but that's a cool thought, because I mean, fucking a character as innocent looking as Ness staring down the, you know what I mean? The Earth, the creatures in Earthbound and shit. It's like, yeah, a little bit of that, like the scary outside world
Yeah.
imagery comes
But
to
you're
mind.
you're very right about that, like with the like crazy concept art going off into like the realistic zone, because like FF8 is like has so much of that. Like, do you guys remember when you're on the train and then you have to get what's his face, the leader of so and he like
President of Galbadia?
mutates? Yeah, I was like, I didn't want to say it because I don't know how to say the Final Fantasy names out loud. But he turns into like
they're
a
stupid,
fucking
don't worry about it.
zombie. He turns into like a zombie monster
Yeah, for no
with like
fucking
blood and
reason
gore.
at all.
Yeah, and you're like, holy shit, what's happening?
And like not only that, but like you look at as well, like the way summons were in the original, like in the older Sprite games, and then the way they're represented again in something like 8. You know, like they're just these unbelievable classical works of art. You know,
Yeah.
so there's just a real deliberate choice to that, and but that world exists while the Moogles are jumping around and the Chocobos are going, wah, you know. So
Yeah.
I remember at the time I played Crystal Chronicles, like right for to whoever wants to fucking reset the clock on that, and that game as well went for that sort of 9 art style and proportion, you know.
Yeah.
But
totally.
anyway, it's a fun little romp so far, and I do appreciate that. Like also really early, we got double techs immediately. So you got yo Vivi, do a flame sword, right? Let's get that Chrono Trigger box art going right away, like minute 30. And I love me a good double tech, so that's fun. Otherwise, pretty straightforward battle system as well. You know, learning skills attached to armor is you know, a little bit of a twist to it, but not much,
It's the most straightforward.
It's just
like it's dead
yeah,
on.
it's like learning your summons. It's the same kind of or magic, you know, in 6. So, not much to that. The Moguri mod does enable the ability to do like a turn-based mode, which is kind of interesting, where it essentially makes it so that the wait time between ATB is gone, and you just act as soon as the next turn is done. You know, so you kind of get like a much more old school RPG wait
Yeah.
vibe to it. But I did read that it messes up a couple fights, so I might just like switch that off. But I was just testing stuff out with it. But overall, yeah, fun start. Trying to find the voices for each of these characters as we're you know, like kind of reading out their lines and such. And right now, it's all about Vivi. We can see whatever else the story's going to cover and wherever else we're going, but I don't give much of a fuck. It's about that kid right there. I want to see what's next for
Yeah,
him.
Vivi's the best.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just thinking
I
about
have
what you
a
were.
Vivi hidden back there.
Oh,
It's
somewhere.
his hat. Yeah, his hat.
I see it.
I'm just thinking about the way that we were just talking about the description of like your serious, or I'm going to say human shaped Final Fantasy games versus like the more fantastical chibi settings. And like I think the strangest thing about FF16 is that it is the first one ever that's both. It's the serious human looking people in the fantasy setting. Like all the realistic human being ones have all been in the pseudo future.
Yeah.
The ones that have like fantastical technology instead of mostly magic.
'Cause even 12, like you think it's gonna be like that, but then it's like super cyberpunk sci-fi fortress in the sky.
That's
type
it.
of
Like,
thing.
is it going to lean more fantasy or sci-fi, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the
Where
the
there's
more
like, where there's like security laser grids and stuff, and you're like, how does this work? Like, what's going on?
15 had its moments of like, you know, Noctis being in like castle-like areas and fantasy type things, but you're pushing a car around and you're driving like.
I think that 15's decision to take place in like Texas was a mistake.
It's
like,
here. It's where I live. Like, it's in
like
Vegas.
it's like Final Fantasy looks just like, well, I'm driving a car with my bros. We're gonna go to the gas station and then fight a turtle. I don't know, man. I don't think that setting worked at all.
Do you know what fucking sucks about 15? When you play that game for like hours, and it's Texas, and then it's like, oh, now I'm in like one forest, but it's like, oh, now I'm going to Altissia, and I'm in like Italy. But then you take the train, and then you see Tenebrae, which is a like which is the most concept art Final Fantasy massive castle off in the distance,
And then you
and
drive right
cannot
past
go.
it.
You cannot go to it. Like, it's off in the distance, and that's it.
It isn't like I didn't. Here's the thing. I didn't beat it. Right. I stopped before Altissia.
Yeah.
So for me, I just got that open field in the car, and I didn't mind it. But it was definitely like the vibe they want to go for is we're on a road trip. And this is what a road trip feels like. And then we pull off into Little Italy, like you mentioned, and then we're getting back on the road, and there's a gas station, and there's a little fucking 7-Eleven, and we're gonna, and so like I got on board with the idea of the road trip, and then, let's get off at this exit and run out into the field and fight a fucking monster out there.
Totally.
And then get back to the car.
So I completely understand, and I was also super down with that. But my issue was that when I wanted to play a Final Fantasy game about a road trip, I wanted my boys to be in the car having a road trip through what looked like a Final Fantasy setting.
I see.
Instead, they're having a road trip through the area like 10 miles from my fucking house.
Yeah. Okay.
Like it just looks like it looks like they might as well be on the fucking 401 from Montreal to Toronto for as interesting as most of that scenery is.
Well, it's almost like inspired by a road trip the team went on, probably, and just went like, hey, how cool would it be to like go take a piss and then fight a fucking dragon and level up and then get back in the car, Yeah, it is but I got that vibe from it, and once I understood that's the vibe it was going for, I was okay with it. But it would definitely have been a ton of fun to see that through a much more fantastical wild setting. There's a did you watch God, what was it called? The Midnight the Duncan Trussell animation with Pendleton Ward. No,
I do not know what you're talking
Adventure
about.
Time creator and Duncan Trussell, they worked on a thing together, a project. It was really cool. And there's an episode of it where they're like going on a trip. They're they're like riding a carriage through this insane setting, but it's like the setting is just kind of background, and occasionally things get in the way, but really these characters are just having a conversation as they just ride the carriage through this world of madness. And like there's something to that idea that like you can see executed in that episode. The Midnight Gospel is what it's called. I just remembered. Of like, if you look out the window and you see like fucking Bahamut just like blowing some shit up over there, and you're like, oh shit, okay, wind that window up, like let's like there's something to that.
That's what 15 should have been, of just
right.
like
yeah
there's diamond weapon, like cool,
just right over there in the marsh. But no, good start to 9 so far.
I'm very happy for you. 9 is one of my faves. So
yeah, it's a great game.
Yeah.
I did want to comment on something. I don't know if you've ever seen it, Wooly, or even Pat, but like Dissidia NT does the weirdo thing where they take Zidane and make him a human proportion,
realistic
Final
Zidane.
Fantasy boy. Yeah.
Oh, let me
and it's
see
a little
this.
weird. It's a little weird. Like,
wow. Okay.
Dissidia NT is like the worst thing ever. Mentioning that hurt me in my chest.
Whoa, look at him go.
That game is like wasted potential. The definition of wasted potential.
Oh, what if FF9 was actually, what if we went for another pretty boy? Yeah. Look at him. That's so interesting. This could, they could have made him fall right in line with Cloud and Squall.
Dissidia NT does a lot of weird things because like you should look up Ramza too, what he looks like, because you're like, wow, that is
Ramza
not
looks like a adorable pretty little girl.
An adorable pretty little girl. I was like, that is not what I imagined. That is in my mind.
They translated the art style directly, and it's like, wow, Rams is really pretty.
Yeah, like super cute. I was like, what?
Also, I'm overjoyed to see the return of the trance system That's a bit of a joke because the trans system in 6, I had some struggles understanding how it worked initially. It's now here to replace limit breaks, and I think I get it after reading that little Moogle tutorial about it. But the idea of everyone having a Terra-like trance is kind of nuts. I was like,
it's super cool until you realize you have absolutely no control over when it turns on at all.
Well, because it just fills up and pops, and then you got to use it, and then
you have no control. You would hope that it would pop for a boss fight, but no, it's going to pop the fight right before the boss fight.
Yeah.
So this is what we were kind of questioning. I was kind of like, will I be able to use this like a limit break strategically?
No.
Okay.
You'll use it when the game tells you that your character glows pretty.
Yeah, I love it as a lore thing for Terra. I don't know about gameplay implications here, but we'll see.
Woolie, are you playing a version of this game that has like you can skip the battles and stuff, or no? Or is it just like you do every single like?
No, there are cheats available on the PC versions, so all Square FF games have a skip battles button if you want to press it,
Gotcha.
but I'm not pressing that button.
Don't press
no.
it.
But I did get the okay from the universe to put steel rate to 100% because it's just a slog otherwise.
You know what? I'm going to tell you right now, somebody who's played through every single one of those games, no, fucking, oh my God, just fucking turn it on.
Wasting turns going for a steal over and over.
It's like you play like FF10 too, and you're like, okay, Riku, you are canonically a warrior or something. You are not a thief. I don't care. Like, you are switching your whole, like, job right now. Like,
It's like there's no pity on the steal. Like, so if the steal's like 10%, you could sit there for like 20 fucking minutes.
Right.
Yeah, it's so bad.
No, and that's my thought on it is like I'm not going to jeopardize the fight to waste turns stealing when I need to do other things. So yeah, I'll probably throw that on.